and my sister has them. So all those things were already there. I'm saying all that to say is all those things were there. I just didn't know. I hadn't gotten familiar with it or knew these kinds of people existed. And I could have avoided that. I could have avoided the whole thing. And again, this is the damage from one person. It took me years. This happened 10 years ago. It took me most of those 10 years to be able to get to a point to be even to tell anybody about it. There's one person that knows about this. And now y'all. So do you understand what I'm saying? So can you imagine when a bunch of them get together down in New York and those 8 governing body members get together and they're figuring out how to rip apart your identity, how to minimize and crush your self-esteem, change who you were, whether as an adult or for those of us who were born in, we don't even know who we were originally supposed to be. This is still the micro level we're talking about. From that one person to the governing body, it's the same program of lies. It's still crushing and hurtful and changing the identity of who you are, crushing your self-esteem. It made me to the point where I didn't even want to play basketball anymore. I didn't go fishing. All the things that you love to do, that was, your way out, how you relaxed and your coping mechanisms, you didn't want to do them anymore. When it was all said and over, I would spend days just laying in bed. Days till 2, 3 o'clock. Then get up. Depression, right? That depression has set in. You're talking 10 years ago. From this one person. And then as a man, if you have any sort of ego or any sort of, competitive nature, and you're like, what's happening to you? And I didn't know at that time that it was depression. I didn't know. In bed this went on for years. I finally got to a point where I would get out and, get to work and start doing what I needed to do. But that malaise was still there. And I couldn't come to grips. Once I don't remember to this day what made me start looking into the personalities and sociopath, but I just did one day. And it was hard for me to come to the fact that I got played, not just played, but crushed with somebody that I was putting my best foot forward on. You know what I mean? And, that was hard to accept, and to know that I felt weak. I felt helpless. And then it was that, and then it was, all over the place emotionally with your emotions, just all over the place, but mostly just weak, hurt, lost. One person, y'all. One person. And what do we see when we look at the Jehovah's Witness organization? Those who are raised in it. So I got a double dose of everything, right? It's the same thing. That toxic culture that they have of always talking about death and destruction. They know that their program and their policies and their guidelines are ruining people. Do you remember the book I gave you while I was reading it to you? She has a chapter, an entire chapter, called Emotions and the Fine Art of Ruining People. This is one woman. She happens to be a lawyer, I think, of all of all trades. This clinically diagnosed sociopath that I wrote about in that book has a chapter on the fine art of ruining people and the desire for power. That's what that young lady wanted from me. With me, she enjoyed how I desired her. She wanted that power. She wanted the destructive power of destroying the relationships around me. Same thing with the governing body. They want the power of being desired and admired, and they want you to call them the guardians of doctrine, and they're the only people that God talks to. And just their name alone, the governing body, all-knowing, desire for power. All toxic people are looking for power in some way, whether it's an individual relationship or an institutional one. The governing body is having people killing themselves over a blood doctrine. That's hella influence. That's hella power. Listen to what I just said to you. They're having people ready to commit suicide by way of not accepting blood transfusions. Further on in the book, she says she wanted to tell stories of ruining people, but it's the stories most likely to get her sued. Isn't that what's happening to the Jehovah's Witness organization right now? They don't want people telling stories about how their lives were ruined, because it's most likely to get them sued. That's why all of the sex abuse cases are now headed to court. And once again, thank you to all of the folks over there in Australia who are bringing them to task. You getting ready to pay. It's the same thing. The regular people cannot do what the governing body members are doing very long. You can do it for a little while, but if you have empathy, after a while, you got to give it up. You got to tell. You got whatever, but you cannot keep doing it long term. These people are doing it long term, so we have to ask the question: what types of personalities are they? Are we going to know individually what they are? Probably not, but we can know for certain that these are toxic people with a toxic program, hands down. Isn't that what your Bible says? We should know them by their fruit. Go back and listen to this, and listen to me talk about some of their traits. They're all there for us. They're all there for you to see. And, oddly enough, I'm going to take you back to that young lady. One of the most hilarious things I did in retaliation for that was once I realized that she fit all of those traits. I can't remember the name of the book exactly, but I ordered like 100 of them with her credit card and sent them to her house. One of the ways I could shoot back at her for being just such a despicable human being. And she even told me once we were later on in the relationship that she would create friction between old boyfriends and new boyfriends. That's another dynamic that they do. When they're leaving the old boyfriend for a new unsuspecting dude, she'll be telling each one of them about each other, creating all kind of jealousy and animosity. Almost had me get into it with another dude because I didn't realize that that's what she was doing. They're always in the middle of creating chaos. They're agents or merchants of chaos. And some of the stuff I'm forgetting right now, that's why I'm jumping back and forth between them and the governing body, because there was so much stuff. I read tomorrow and I'll probably remember, I forgot to say this on the podcast. But that's the whole point of when you're dealing with these people. They're always doing things to minimize you as a human being, because that is how they gain control, that invisible influence. So now they can manipulate you into doing whatever they want you to do. That will always be them. And the last thing I'm going to say about that is this from an individual standpoint. And I may have said this before in previous episodes, but one of the things I learned about them off the record was I didn't know that they hate any activity that uplifts a person or group. Now, if you want to take a look at the macro level, you can put that right in there, make that fit. But when my dad was on his last legs, my sister, who I believe is also, of this ilk, potentially sociopathic, we were in this little room in the hospital, and it was actually my mom who was passing. And we were in this hospital, and we had an alternative man, and he was talking to us about the benefits of vitamin C in larger doses, not like the minuscule amounts you get in the stores. And so I look over, and I call her my evil sister, but she's potential sociopath number 2 in the book. And she's turning and writhing and exhaling and showing her disdain for this man who was in here trying to give us hope to save our mother. And I looked around at her husband and her children and my other sisters, and nobody was even shocked by it. I was the only one. And that's what I mean earlier when I said they have amazing influence over the people around them. You can't help them until they get away. They didn't even bat an eye. This was normal behavior for them to see of her. And I'm trying to figure out how to... Let me not say that, so I'm going to get in trouble. And I'm trying to figure out, what is this? But I didn't know that at the time. And when I look back on my sister's behavior with all of our family members, each one of us, done it to me once, maybe twice, but each one of us, she has found a way to manipulate us to our detriment. I've already told you guys about the house when my dad passed and all that kinds of stuff. And so it is because of that I say, no, I think that number is a little bit higher than what these professionals are telling us. I know, and it doesn't mean they are what I'm saying they are. However, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a damn duck. You understand what I'm saying? I'm looking at these characteristics and I'm seeing those characteristics at play and have been their entire lives. But anyway, what is the point of all this? The point is, if you start looking at the things that are happening in and around you, on a micro level, and then on a macro level. Like the gentleman in the audio said, these people are at play. And how many times have you been sitting around watching something happen on the news like, how could somebody do something like that? How could they make a law like that? How could this policeman behave in such a reprehensible manner? Maybe, just maybe, they're not like you and I. How many times have you said that to yourself? Think about it. How many times have we seen people doing things that we know, you and I know, we could never sleep at night? And these people do it over and over, year after year, term after term. Please take some time and start looking into these characteristics. And I promise you, it will save you a ton of heartache, because you'll know who to avoid, whether in your personal life or at work. You know, I never believed before that people got fired for no reason. I always thought that, you did something, wholly wrong in order for that to happen. That is absolutely not true. Once you begin to see people exhibiting these traits and these characteristics, especially at work, you'll realize that once one of these parasites have their sights on you, they're waiting, because you're a threat to them. That's what this is all about. These are very low frequency, very low self-esteem people. That is what it's all about. And they're trying to find ways to make themselves valid and having some value, right? But when you have one of them that is on your bumper and just waiting, your work has to be, and the only reason why I know this now, because it happened to me. And they're going to attack your work. If they can't attack your work, they can't attack your punctuality. They're going to find a way to get you. And I remember this dude told me in front of other people. Many of you are familiar with the James Byrd story. If not, look it up. He told me I would love to take James and tie him up to the car and drag him down the street. Of course, we already know what type of person is saying this. This is a white man saying this to me, right? In the street, I probably would have two-pieced him right on the spot. Not going to lie to you. But I'm at work and I live 2 minutes from the job. They're going to come get me. You know what I mean? I had never heard nobody have so much disdain for somebody whose work was impeccable. His attendance was impeccable. His punctuality was impeccable. All because there was somebody else he wanted in that seat other than me. You understand? And he wielded power. He had power. And that's another thing about these people, and I'm going to close after this. These people, you can usually find them many times in positions of power. Because again, that is what the lady told us. We crave power. Power. So maybe now some law enforcement choices make sense. Some judicial choices make sense. You follow me? Medical is another place where they hide. Both of these two women that I just told you about, in terms of the woman I was dating and my sister, they're both in the field of medicine. Both of them. Now, they may not be taking anybody's pulse anymore, right? But they're both in that field where they can potentially harm people unnoticed. It is your duty, ladies and gentlemen, to start looking up this information that you're being given. As I keep telling you guys, the day of hiding and pretending this stuff doesn't exist is over. That is what the gentleman told you in the initial audio. These people exist, and it's amazing to watch them. Once you learn these things and you go to a new job or you go to a new environment, you will spot them immediately, and they will also spot you. And it'll be up to you to play a game of chess to stay away from them. Avoid them at all costs if you have to. Okay? Avoid them. They are no good. They offer nothing, and they cannot change. They cannot be rehabilitated. Do you hear me? Toxic personalities. I don't know why y'all's God created them. I don't know why they're here. Maybe there's some cosmic reason for them. But for right now, all we know in this time is history, and that these people are destructive and they need to be addressed by all of us. That is what he said. In essence, we all need to come together and work as a team, not as a narcissistic individual, but as a team. He used the word democracy. I prefer to use the word team. Figure this stuff out